68-year-old janitor Frank Martinez was just an old man in the eyes of the apartment residents. But that deep scar on his neck, nobody knew his story from Iraq, until that night when everything came to light. Hello, dear viewers. Before we dive into this powerful story, don't forget to let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. If you believe these real-life stories need to reach more people, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Make sure to ring that notification bell too, because today's story is about people you might never notice but see every day. What if I told you that ordinary people around you might actually be heroes? Frank Martinez was the janitor at Riverside Apartments in downtown Boston. At 68, he was a medium-built man with stooped shoulders. Every morning at 6 a.m., he'd start work, cleaning hallways, emptying trash bins, and quietly solving any problems that arose. People barely noticed him. Frank was exactly that kind of person. Invisible, quiet, just doing his job. But those who looked carefully could see a deep scar on his neck, running from behind his ear down to his chin. Old, faded, but still visible. Frank had never told anyone the story behind that scar, and he didn't need to. Riverside Apartments was filled with young professionals, tech workers, startup founders, influencers, all between 25-35 years old, all lost in their own worlds. The main players were Jake Sullivan, 28 years old, crypto trader, thinks he's very smart. Madison Parker, 26 years old, social media expert, always on her phone. Tyler Brooks, 31 years old, architect, the leader type of the apartment. Ashley Chen, 29 years old, marketing director, always in a hurry. This young group had never taken Frank seriously. To them, he was just the creepy old janitor. The problem started 3 months ago. Frank's work pace wasn't what it used to be. Sometimes he'd skip a section of the stairs. Sometimes he'd forget to change the trash bags on time. Jake was the first to complain. "This guy isn't doing his job properly. There's been the same stain in my hallway for 3 days." Madison agreed. "The trash always smells. What kind of janitor work is this?" Tyler, who was the leader of the resident committee, called a meeting. "Guys, we need to solve this issue. Frank can't do this job anymore." After weeks of passive-aggressive behavior, the situation turned into open hostility. The young tenants started ignoring Frank. They'd give him orders, make him wait, and sometimes even make mocking comments. "Hey, Frank," Jake said one morning. "I spilled coffee in the elevator. Clean it up." Frank nodded and got his cleaning supplies. But Jake wasn't done. "And what's that mark on your neck? It's gross. Don't you know how to shave properly?" Ashley laughed. "Maybe it's an old fight scar, from a bar fight." Frank quietly did his cleaning and left, but something flickered in his eyes. Something very old, very familiar. One Thursday evening, Tyler gathered all the neighbors. Frank was sitting in his small office in the basement. "Frank," Tyler said with authority, "we need to discuss something." There were 8 to 10 people around, all smiling as if they'd won a great victory. "We talked to the management company," Tyler continued. "It's time to replace you with someone younger, more energetic." Frank stood up. Old, tired, but straight. "I don't understand." Madison stepped forward. "Frank, you're not doing this job anymore. You're too old and—" She paused, looking at the scar on his neck. "You don't look very trustworthy." Jake added, "This apartment is for young professionals. You don't fit." Frank looked at them. There was a long silence. Then he just said, "I understand." The next day, apartment manager Janet Williams came. She was an older, experienced woman who had hired Frank. "I heard you fired Frank," she said to Tyler. "Yes, he's gotten old. He can't work." Janet frowned. "Did you ever research Frank's background?" "What background? He's just an old janitor." Janet pulled a thick file from her bag. "This is Frank Martinez's military file. Public record, anyone can see it. But none of you bothered to look." Tyler took the file. He looked at the first page and froze. Iraq War veteran, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, Distinguished Service Cross? Madison looked over his shoulder. What does this mean? Janet explained. Frank served 2 tours in Iraq, 2004 and 2007. He was injured in a bomb attack, she said, pointing to his neck. That scar is from that attack, but he continued his service. Tyler kept flipping through the file, pages full of medals, commendations, promotion records. In 2007, while serving in Ramadi, Janet continued, Frank's unit was ambushed. Despite being wounded, Frank carried 4 of his soldiers to safety, risking his own life. Ashley's face had gone pale. We didn't know. Of course you didn't know, Janet said harshly. Because you didn't ask. People like Frank don't brag. They just do their duty. Jake was studying the photos in the file. Young, strong Frank in uniform. Photos with his buddies. Some had KIA, killed in action, written over them. Did his friends die? He asked. Most of them, Janet said. Frank is one of the few soldiers who survived. He has PTSD, sleep disorders. That's why sometimes he can't do his job perfectly. But he never complains. Tyler's hand was shaking. How did we treat him? Yes, Janet said. Think about how you treated a hero who risked his life for your country. Madison started crying. We called him gross, said it was a bar fight scar. Jake buried his head in his hands. God, what did we do? Janet found Frank and explained the situation. Frank listened quietly. So they found out, he said simply. Frank, they're very sorry. They want to apologize. Frank stood up, looked out the window. They don't need to be sorry. They didn't know me, that's all. But Frank, Janet, Frank said, turning to look at her. I didn't earn those medals so they would respect me. That was my duty. I did it, that's all. Do you want to stay in the apartment? Frank thought. I don't know. Now when they look at me, will they see my medals or the mistakes I made? In the following days, the atmosphere in the apartment completely changed. When the young tenants saw Frank, they would lower their heads. Nobody could look at him directly. Tyler came to Frank. Frank, I'm so sorry. If I had known... Frank raised his hand. Tyler, I don't want you to treat me differently because I'm a veteran. Just treat me like a human being, that's all. But you're a hero. No, Frank said firmly. I'm a janitor. The rest is in the past. Jake also came with a coffee in his hand. Frank, I brought this for you, had it specially made. Frank took the coffee but looked at Jake. Jake, I didn't fight so you'd bring me coffee, just act normal with me. Weeks passed. Slowly, a normal atmosphere began to form. But this time, it was different. People were showing Frank respect, but this time it was real respect. Madison was saying good morning to him. Ashley was disposing of her trash properly. Tyler was bringing up Frank's needs in apartment committee meetings. Frank himself was also starting to change. He was talking to people more. Sometimes he would smile. The scar on his neck was no longer something shameful, just a part of his past. One evening, Tyler sat next to Frank. Frank, what did you experience in that war? Frank was quiet for a long time. Then, many things, Tyler, but the most important thing I learned is this. People aren't defined by the mistakes they make, but by how they act after them. Tyler understood. You forgave us. I never blamed you, Tyler. You didn't know me, that's normal. But now you know me, and I know you too. You're good people, just inexperienced. 6 months later, a barbecue party was organized in the apartment. Frank was invited too. He was no longer just the janitor, but a member of the apartment family. Jake approached him. Frank, can I ask you something? Ask. That night, the night you were ambushed, why did you go back for your friends? Frank smiled. Jake, why are you here in your apartment feeling sorry for me? Because that's the right thing to do. That's what people do. Madison joined them. Frank, we're lucky to know someone like you. Frank nodded. I'm also lucky to know people like you, Madison. People who learn from their mistakes and grow. That night, as Frank went to bed, he touched the scar on his neck. It didn't hurt anymore, because that scar wasn't just a wound. It was the memory of the people whose lives he had saved. And now, these young people in this apartment had also taught him a different lesson about life. People can change, they can grow, and earn real respect. Sometimes heroes aren't born on battlefields. Sometimes they're born in daily life, in moments when people try to understand each other. Frank Martinez was still a janitor, but now he wasn't just cleaning. He was also cleaning people from prejudices, from judgments. And maybe that was the greatest heroism of all. Thank you for listening to this story. Are there people like Frank around you? Have you tried to get to know them? Share in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.